It was one of the city's darkest days on a sunny morning.
Today marks 10 years since a Ride the Ducks boat crashed into a tour bus on Seattle's Aurora Bridge, killing 5 people on the bus and injuring dozens more. That bus was carrying international students and staff from North Seattle College. A jury awarded the victims and their families $123 million, saying Ride the Ducks International and the manufacturer of the vehicle were mostly to blame for the crash, with Ride the Ducks Seattle partly at fault. The attorney who represented the victims in the civil trial says that day will always stay with her.
Everybody that appeared at that scene ended up with PTSD because it was a bloody, horrible disaster. And that's what I will never forget is the people.
And joining us now is former King 5 journalist, retired journalist, veteran reporter Glenn Farley, who covered that crash so extensively. It is incredible, isn't it, that it's been 10 years?
Well, everything that's 10 years ago is like incredible, but this was a biggie.
Walk us through what happened, what you remember from that day.
Well, what I remember that day is we were going on another story, and we were on the I-90 bridge. We were going to Eastern Washington. I don't even remember 4 because this kind of took over everything. And they said there's been an accident on the Aurora Bridge. At first, from what we heard, it didn't really sound like it was this bad. So we turned around and we went there, and it was like, okay, it's that bad. It's bad. I mean, you have 2 very, very large vehicles. You can see them in your screen. You have the duck boat, which a lot of people remember when they were running around Seattle, and you have this charter bus. And you have a collision that happened from the time that the knuckle on this steering mechanism broke to the impact. And the thing I remember most, and you can see it there in that photograph, is the tire. There's a tire, a wheel, sitting there by itself. And I'm thinking, either this is a consequence or it's a cause. And it was the cause.
In fact, as I was looking back at the video, what was so haunting is because the evidence to the cause of the crash was laying right there.
Right.
And you knew it when you saw it, that somehow.
Well, we didn't know for sure. I mean, there had to be an investigation.
Your gut was telling you.
But there was, I remember talking about it. I said, this is because I've covered a lot of aviation accidents, railroad accidents, other things, other highway accidents, and I'm looking at that thing, and I said, that's of all the clues you're going to have, that's going to be one of the major ones.
Turned out to be key.
It was key.
For the NTSB.
Yeah.
What actually went wrong?
So,
in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, there is this sort of cylindrical thing called a steering knuckle as part of the steering mechanism. And what had happened is that had broken. And it went off with a big bang. Later, 4 years later, we interviewed, and we're going to get into this, I know, the driver of the duck. It was 0.4 seconds, less than half a second. He said it was like driving Jell-O, and they were heading northbound, veered over, and then crashed into the bus.
Basically, he lost control. You're talking about
he didn't have any control.
Eric Bishop, who was the driver.
Right.
We didn't hear from him for 4 years, and a lot of people wanted to blame him, even though he knew he had nothing to do with it. And in fact, he told you 4 years later, it could have been so much worse.
Well, first of all, he felt like he was the target. And he had nothing to do with this. This was a maintenance issue, was a design issue, according to the NTSB, according to the civil trial. And he basically was in control of nothing.
Right.
One of the things that he said that I think was, there were 37 people on the duck itself. He said, had they not hit the bus, as tragic as losing 5 people on the bus was, that he is convinced that the duck would have, because of the bow, would have ridden up over the barrier, probably knocked the fence out because it's a heavy vehicle, and have taken all 37 people on the duck down.
Into the water.
Into the water, or there's a lot of land down there too.
Right.
And they could have landed in either one, sort of depending on a lot.
Could have been so much worse. And he was vindicated when this NTSB report came out because he had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Right.
And the NTSB findings ended up leading to critical changes on the duck boat, didn't
Well,
they?
one of the things that the NTSB, because I went back for the hearing, and you saw Karen Kohler, she was one of the attorneys, she was there, I remember talking to her there and several other times, was that one of the key takeaways from the NTSB is that Ride the Ducks International, which is a Missouri company that was taking these World War II vehicles, putting newer equipment inside, newer drivetrains, fixing things up, was basically operating as a auto manufacturer. But unlike Ford or Mack Trucks or any company that would have been manufacturing a vehicle, there was really no federal oversight. And some of the recommendations from the NTSB were to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the Coast Guard, others on regulating these more.
You know, one of the questions that people had then, and maybe still have now, is why wasn't there a center barrier? People often wonder, with traffic going both directions, it's so easily, although this had nothing to do with that, but some people wonder if
Right.
it could have not been as bad, that accident, if there had been a center barrier.
That's an argument that was made many times. We covered, after this accident for years, there was a lot of discussion about what should happen. There was, you got a state route, but the city of Seattle maintains that bridge. So you had a lot of back and forth. There was a lawsuit there that was this sort of went away, although there were some settlements from the city and from the state with some of the victims as well. But that, I just drove across the bridge today. It is a bunch of cones in the middle. Yeah. But the lanes are only like 9 feet 2 inches wide. I was behind a garbage truck going across it today. It's splitting the lane because that's the smartest thing. The buses will split that number 1 and number 2 lane going across. There's still no barrier up there. And the question has been argued that the barrier probably wouldn't do all that much.
Do you ever drive across that bridge without thinking about that duck boat accident?
I do, but I mean, I think about it frequently. I mean, I will sit there and look, on the curb, because there were marks left behind by that, and in the middle of the road and everything else. Those have kind of faded away. I can't say I noticed anything today. There's a lot of marks on that curb because there's been a lot of mishaps on that bridge. But yeah, I mean, it was a major crash. It was a major crash for the National Transportation Safety Board when they put a GO team out from Washington, D.C. on that. You knew at that point this was a big deal.